Well, here's a computer I built, I guess around about 18 months ago. It was my first build. At the time it was reasonably good. Still is a good gaming machine. It was built for gaming. There's as you can see, it's got a Coolermaster HAF 932 case. There's an Intel Core i7 CPU in there, and an Asus Sabertooth Z77 motherboard. The graphics card's a GTX 670, which is probably the weakest link. In fact, I need to replace that. And because I like high resolution audio, I've got an Asus D2X 7.1 channel 192 kilohertz sample rate card in there. So that's pretty cool. But what I didn't do, because I'd reached the limit of my budget, was to think about in any way, shape or form efficient cooling of the CPU. And so I stuck the little fan thing that came with the original Intel CPU onto the CPU as instructed and left it at that. But recently I've noticed that with processing certain things where you require 100% CPU, and I've never in fact overclocked, but just at 100% CPU I'm getting temperatures, according to the monitoring software, which I only recently installed, funnily enough, of up to 78 degrees centigrade, and I'm sure that can't be great. So I'm going to, I purchased myself a Coolermaster 612 cooler. I'm going to put that in and go through the whole process here of taking out the old fan, putting in the new cooler. There's a lot of videos on the net on how to do certain things, stages here. There's plenty on how to take out the fan, so thanks for those. I'll be following some of those. There's some that show you how to take out the motherboard. That's something that in theory I might have to do. I'm actually hoping to get round that. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And I found one or two on installing the CPU cooler, which have been very helpful, although I haven't tried anything yet. This is live, so to speak. The little instruction manual, piece of paper that comes with the cooler with small diagrams to my aging eyesight is so difficult to follow. So the YouTube videos have been gratefully received. However, this will show the whole process. I've not been able to find anything where a Coolermaster HAF 932 tower has been involved. I even have doubts that the cooler will fit. The PC Part Picker website says it's compatible with everything, including the case. I've done my own little measurements very roughly while the computer was under my desk in my office, and it shows it's close, so we'll see how it goes. The first job is to lay this machine on its back and take out the fan, which I'm going to do directly. But before I do, I'll just show you the rear of the case and the motherboard, and look at that, there's the backplate thing. I'm going to have to replace that, is my understanding, and it looks like I can't do that because it doesn't clear the hole, which is a bit of a nuisance. So in theory I should have to take the motherboard out. In practice I'm hoping that if I remove the cards I can just undo the screws and without disconnecting anything else slide up the motherboard so I can get to that. Perhaps with some help from a second pair of hands. So we'll see how we go. Right, first job. I hope you'll be able to see this okay, although as I say there's plenty of videos showing this particular process. You know, I love doing this sort of thing, messing with computers and building them and that, and I've only built two now. This was the first, but nevertheless there's a sort of love-hate about it because it's a bit traumatic, and this sort of thing, an act of pulling something off physically which is held on by gungy thermal paste, is not something I relish. Okay, so there's a little arrow on here telling you which way to turn. That's very straightforward. Thank you, Intel. There was one video I looked at which said if you run the computer first, that must be it, mustn't it? That's obviously come clear of the CPU, so it's just the plastic clips that are holding it. Yeah, the video was saying if you run the CPU first, then it gets warm and that helps the paste bit. But I didn't do that as being, whoa, that was simple. much better than I'd expected. Easier than I'd expected. There's the paste. Should not be using that, of course, but I need to clean the paste off the CPU. I'm hoping, like the motherboard, I don't have to take the CPU out. So we'll find a cotton bud, as we call them here, and a tissue and some isopropyl alcohol. So I'll just turn off for a sec. Okay, here we go. Here's my bottle of ordinary alcohol. I'll start with the cotton buds. From what I've seen of other people doing this is reasonably straightforward. This Intel, the Core i7, at least the version I have, is a LGA 1155, and so you've got to make sure your cooler is compatible with that, of course. And when you get the cooler, as I'll show you shortly, there's lots of different mounting brackets and back plates so that it can be used with, I hope you can see this, it can be used with different processors. I'll speed this up, of course. Voila, done. Beautiful. Okay, next step's going to be to take out the cards so that I can move the motherboard and get to the back of it. Graphics card first. I mentioned earlier on this is the weak link in the system. However, I haven't got my new one yet, so I'll have to go back for the moment. Okay. I seem to recall there's a clip somewhere. Do I have to take this off? Oh, don't tell me I do. Haven't done that to start with. And the sound card, which should be easy enough. I'll have to get the air blower on this lot. That was on top of the sound card. Put into one of those, which will be on the video. That's the sound card. What I'm going to have to do now is to loosen that motherboard so that I can slide it. If you remember the shot of the case when it was vertical, I need to slide it up so I can use the holes here. I'm going to have to look at my reference video to see what holes I need to use. That looks very strange. Okay, my confusion was because I got the wrong brackets. And these are the Intel ones, and this is the Intel backplate. I did have that one a bit right, and they go through onto here. These are screwed to the cooler, which we'll do in a sec. And if you look here, then 4 holes, 1, 2 there, and 1, 2 there. So it's a question of mounting this on the cooler, putting the cooler on. I wonder if I can. What is that? Wet? Oh, I've been wiping stuff with a cloth, damp cloth, to clean the dust off. It's true. Honestly. Okay. Yeah. Just thinking this through. I'm going to loosen the motherboard. These 4 holes aren't visible around the other side, and maybe we have to stick this in with the thermal paste on. So this is the pathetic excuse for what they call a user manual. User manual. I mean manual. In my day they called that instructions. How stupid is modern terminology. Anyway, I picked the wrong ones out. These are the ones we want, which are the Intel ones, which, as I say, are these here. So the first things first, I've got to screw those to the back of the cooler. There's the protective cooler thing, which has to come off, of course. We'll take it off now, I think. Oh, I'll just pull it back for the moment. So these things need to go on that way, like that. And we've got 4 little screws somewhere. There we go. I can't, because I'm trying to put this into camera vision, I can't see what I'm doing. Tighten these up good and tight, I guess. Got to hold the weight of the cooler. And at least can move about, so they seem to click into holes. I think I used the center one if I remember the video I watched. Look at this. Warranty, void if removed. A little picture which I think is a waste bin. And it says in the instruction manual, user manual, even bigger instruction sheet, pretty because I can barely see the small diagrams. It says in here somewhere, oh, it must be the other one. It says don't take off the installation. What on earth is it talking about? Warranty void if removed. What? I'm not likely to remove the wire. Does it mean the label? What on earth is it on about? I remain totally puzzled. If somebody can enlighten me, great.